Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Well, we're back. Back in black. Got 9 lives, abusing every one of them and running wild in 2 back-to-back games of unusually high-octane Atlanta action. Now, the Atlanta isn't really known for being much of a high-octane ship. It's usually found hiding behind islands and lobbing its very floaty and numerous HE shells over said islands in the way of enemy battleships, raining down a golden shower of burning hellfire upon them. And really, if you want to be successful in this ship, you really do have to play it much more cautiously than I do in either of these 2 games, because more often than not, trying to play it aggressively isn't going to work out for you. That said, the 2 games you're about to see, I played back to back and got pretty good results in them. Both of them were pretty aggressive, and I think both of them are quite entertaining, which is why I wanted to show both of them to you. We should note, however, that I am driving the Atlanta B, which is not part of the 2020 Black Fleet, now available for purchase in the store. The 2020 Black Fleet included the Pan-European destroyer Bwisavisa, American cruiser Indianapolis, and Japanese battleship Mutsu. Atlanta B was part of the 2019 Black Fleet, but luckily for you, you can get 2019 Black Fleet crates or Black Friday crates in the Black Friday section of the store. There are 5 of them, cost 5,000 doubloons to purchase them. The only problem is none of these 5 crates are guaranteed to give you the Atlanta B. They might give you the Scharnhorst B or some other black ship. They might not even give you the black ships at all. I'm pretty sure that they do. You'd have to read the crate descriptions for the 2019 crates to know for sure. But there is one foolproof way to get the Atlanta, although you'll be stuck with the original version. It's available in the store for 500,000 global XP, and to this day, it remains a very good ship, although it is somewhat more tricky to play than other Tier 6 cruisers. Speaking of being tricky to play, we've rushed right into the Bravo Cap Circle. Bit of a suicidal move for an Atlanta under any other circumstances, but if you take a look on the map, there doesn't really seem to be anybody who can shoot at us. There's just that Indianapolis B behind that island, but we notice the smoke screen here, and so we deploy our radar consumable to reveal this poor, unfortunate Fubuki. There are few ships in the game that are this good, that are as good as the Atlanta at finishing off enemy destroyers. It only took 3 salvos to remove that Fubuki from play. Unfortunately, he did manage to get torpedoes off, but luckily we've got our hydroacoustic search running, so we're able to detect those in advance and move out of their path of death and destruction. We momentarily go inside of the smoke screen set by the friendly destroyer, but as you can see, the enemy aircraft carrier has planes in the area, and those are spotting us for whatever is shooting us from the smoke screen over there to the south of the Bravo Cap. Spoiler alert, it is a Nuremberg and a Leander. The Nuremberg is sitting inside the Leander's smoke screen, and as you can see, whenever he hits us, he doesn't do a whole lot of damage with each individual shell, but each individual shell does penetrate. The Atlanta is about as heavily armored as a destroyer, so light cruiser HE being shot at it is not a good thing. Takes down its hit points very quickly, and as you see, there aren't really a lot of hit points to begin with. In fact, the Atlanta only has 27,500 hit points, and for comparison's sake, the new Tier 7 Italian destroyer Paolo Emilio starts with 24,000. 27,000 isn't really much more than 24,000. This is just a big Frankenstein monster destroyer with crappy torpedoes, but very rapid firing 127mm guns that shoot a lot of American HE. And as you can see, we've got the equilibrium of power skill applied to these shells. So they can penetrate more than 21 millimeters of armor. I can't remember what the threshold is actually. Is it 25? 27? Either way, we're able to get a bunch of penetrating hits on that Warspite, and he's had to duck behind that island. But now we have to momentarily switch focus to the Devonshire out here, who's inside the Alpha Cap. The Atlanta becomes a little bit difficult to aim at ranges longer than this, and long-range shots in general. Long-range shots for the Atlanta probably mean anything in excess of about 9 kilometers. The shells just take so very long to reach their target. You can see by the time-to-target indicator for the shot on the Warspite, the shells are going to take a full 10 or 11 seconds to traverse through the air and finally come down on his decks. But when they do a good deal of HE penetration damage, and they always have the chance to start fires. The Atlanta is the original HE spamming menace in this game. It's been power crept by a lot of ships. I'm thinking the Russian cruisers that have since been added to the game, but that doesn't mean it is no longer an effective ship. It is, as long as you play it right. And again, playing it right doesn't necessarily include being this aggressive or shooting this much in open water. What you want to do is find these islands to park yourself behind and lob shells over those from safety. But that's not always possible, and it's always good to adapt. We're able to take down that Leander now, and basically the map is entirely under our control at this point. We've got both Bravo and Charlie. We've got some red cruisers moving in toward Charlie, so that may be a problem. But good news, we found the enemy destroyer, the only remaining one. It's the USS Benson, and as you can see, he is hard at work trying to pursue our carrier. Now, frankly, I'm not feeling too generous. I don't particularly care much if the aircraft carrier dies, except for the fact that it will give the enemy team a large point swing. Not that it would really help them right now, considering where the points are actually at. But I want to be able to take down this Benson, because if all the rest of my teammates die, or if most of them die, then at least I know the enemy team no longer has a destroyer, and so they don't have as much of a chance at taking or contesting capture circles. Now the Benson, wise to my presence, smokes up. Of course, this is meaningless to me. I simply turn on the hydroacoustic search just in case he's launched torpedoes at me, and he has. There they are, sailing a country mile away from the bow of my ship. And I'm holding onto the radar till I get close enough where it's not going to be difficult at all for me to hit the Benson. There's only one concern, and that is that I have 10,000 hit points left. The Benson doesn't exactly fire slowly, and all his HE shells should be able to penetrate my armor, because again, I'm about as well armored as he is. So, theoretically, he could remove a lot of hit points from me, and, you know, he is. It's not insignificant what he's doing. But what I'm doing to him is much, much worse. It only takes me, 4 salvos to eliminate him from virtually full health to nothing, and that right there basically ends the game. We have a ship advantage and a cap advantage, and we also have an aircraft carrier and destroyer advantage. And basically nothing else happens for the rest of this game. My team just kills the enemy team, and we win with a glorious victory. So let's cut right now to the results screen and see how we did before we move on to the next installment of this feature presentation. 3,113 base XP, 79,000 damage. Not a lot of damage, but an effective Atlanta game nonetheless. Now this next game, we're going to get a lot more damage, and we're going to be just as aggressive. We're on Shards, thankfully not in the middle spawn, which would be kind of a disaster, I think, for this ship, but instead south of the Charlie Cap. 3 destroyers on each team. We've got 1 with us. So we're going to move toward Charlie. And initially I was trying to decide, do I want to turn left and try to hide behind the islands to the left of the Charlie Cap, or do I want to turn right and hang around the bigger islands over on that side? Well, if I turn left, there's always the red team spawning north of the Bravo cap there, who would have clear shots on me, even if I were behind those islands. So I elect to turn right, along with the destroyer. We've spotted a Warspite and a King George out there, and all I have to say about these two particular players in this game is it's lucky for me that they have a hard time aiming. Otherwise, I think things wouldn't have gone as well. Unfortunately, I am spotted, which means there is an enemy destroyer over here within 9.7 kilometers of me. But the Atlanta's radar range is only something like 8.4 kilometers or something like that. So if I were to pop that radar now, there'd be no guarantee that I would actually spot the destroyer, and I might waste one of these two very valuable consumables. So instead, I elect to kite away and shoot at the Warspite. Luckily, every single shell he sends in response to me misses, but I'm still spotted as the Warspite is behind the island and the King George is behind that island. So it's still the destroyer aiming at me, and in fact, all three of the ships here are aiming at me: the destroyer, the Warspite, and the King George. The destroyer is the Gaeta. He elects to reveal his presence by shooting at me, evidently thinking his armor-piercing shells are going to do something besides over-penetrate, but what he perhaps has forgot about is that I have radar. He is now within my radar range, and even if he's sent torpedoes at me, well, I've got hydro running, and the islands are protecting me from his battleship friends. So there's nothing to stop me from popping this radar and unleashing holy hellfire upon this Gaeta. Now, the Gaeta does have several more hit points, I think, than even the Benson did. So whether my shells are missing or it's just because of his hit points, we aren't actually able to take him out. He gets away alive, but missing quite a bit of health, and that has forced him off of the cap. So I am now going to move in. To be frank, my friendly destroyer, which I believe is a Moss, isn't exactly being helpful. Instead of going into the cap circle like I think he probably should have, he's instead hiding out between those two islands there, trying to torpedo these battleships and failing to torpedo them at all, actually. And also failing to spot the Warspite, only the King George. I don't know if that's because he's smoked up right now. Actually, I think he's smoked up right now, given the fact that he has lost sight of the King George. The Gaeta is still in some sort of position to spot me, which prompts me to launch my really short-range torpedoes in the direction of that gap. They are going to be able to make it all the way to the gap, and I was kind of thinking maybe the Gaeta was there, but since I drop spot, I don't think that anymore. One thing to note about destroyer play is, if you're in this Moss's situation, yeah, the smokescreen conceals you from the enemy ships, but it also conceals the enemy ships from you if nobody else is spotting them. So the Moss had no idea this King George was coming back around, and frankly, this is a very, very scary moment for me, with the King George shooting at me. Luckily for me, he's shooting the high explosive, and you might say, well, you know, the Atlanta, as you said, is so lightly armored that the high explosive can probably be pretty effective against it, and yes, that's true. The King George's high explosive can be very effective indeed against the Atlanta, but I'm pretty sure the King George's armor piercing is going to be a lot more effective against this particular ship, since the King George's armor piercing is lower caliber relative to other battleships, and it does have the short-fused British armor piercing shells, so it's just lucky for me that this guy has decided to shoot the HE. It is doing damage to me, but I feel like I'm doing a little bit more damage to him. Unfortunately, my steering gears and engine are now all broken, and my damage control party is on cooldown. So here I am, giving flat broadside to this King George, and instead of trying to switch to AP and maybe blow me out of the water, he instead decides to sail around this island, which, to be fair, I am taking a lot of his hit points away with my rapid-fire guns, using some AP there to pepper his superstructure. And so, you know, he started this engagement on very, very high health. He's now on very low health. You don't want to give the Atlanta this kind of chance to just obliterate your hit points. But also, him going behind the island prevents him from shooting at me. So now, really, all I have to worry about is this Warspite B, who I think is also part of the 2019 Black Friday fleet. And you can probably get it if you want to gamble on those 2019 crates. Warspite is also a very good ship, a ship I am quite afraid of because of its highly accurate guns and its hard-hitting armor piercing. Luckily for me, this particular Warspite doesn't seem to necessarily have gotten the finer nuances of aiming down, as he's missed me multiple times. But I can't worry about him too much right now. The King George is about to show his presence again from behind this island, and he's giving me flat broadside. So I switch to the AP. First salvo shatters against his belt armor, but if we aim a little bit higher, we can get into his superstructure, and we are able to take him out. But for the Atlanta right now, after that over-penetrating hit from the Warspite, we are on perilously low health. So we want to slow down. We know our detectability range is 9.7 kilometers, and the Miyoko is further than that, so's the Warspite. So we did drop spot there momentarily, but we're spotted again. And that is because of that pesky destroyer, I believe still the Geta, who's within our detectability range and spotting us from somewhere behind us. In fact, he's just appeared on the map. Looks like he is about to engage the friendly Moss, and I'm not sure how this duel is going to go, but the Moss has every advantage, at least I think he does, against this Geta. As far as I know, he hasn't lost any hit points up until now. Nevertheless, he's still going to lose this fight, which honestly shouldn't be that much of a surprise, given how useful he was at spotting the enemy ships in the beginning of this game and contesting the cap. In other words, he didn't really try to do any of that, so it's not that much of a shock to me that he lost a fight he probably should have won. Unfortunately, I am about to lose this fight unless I am able to do something drastic here. 153 hit points left. Spotting the Geta with radar allows the King George on our team to take him out. Good thing. And now, after all this hard work and rather aggressive Atlanta play, we're going to come into this cap circle. There's basically no way the enemy team can claw this back at this point, so why not pad up our stats by taking the Charlie cap solo, right? But nobody wants to watch that, so let's speed right through this because I just sit here, you know. And there we go, we're done taking the Charlie cap. Now the only question is, can we pad our damage numbers a little bit? The Warspite was last spotted around the right-hand side of this island, so if we come around here, there is a chance that he's going to be close enough to spot us, and if he is, we're probably dead. Unfortunately for us, he is, and there's no way we can get away from him. We can only hope to dodge his shots, and unfortunately for us, although he's missed us throughout the entire course of this game, that particular shot does hit us and does take us down. But we finished the game with a high caliber medal and 112,000 damage done. The Warspite and the Miyoko are the only ones left. They're going to go down fairly quickly here too. We'll speed through this. If you can hear the audio of the ships honking their horns, by the way, at this speed, it sounds like little train horns. It's kind of cute. Anyway, the Warspite is the only ship left, and he's going to go down, ending the game in our glorious victory. So I hope you enjoyed this Atlanta double feature and the aggressiveness of these two games. I thought they were pretty entertaining, and I apologize because I'm putting this game up in lieu of a stream today. Since Wargaming is doing their stream, they're taking my streaming spot sort of away from me. Don't really want to compete with them. So instead of streaming today, you can catch me either Saturday night or Sunday during the early part of the day. I haven't decided which day, but I'm going to stream on one, maybe even both of those days. So, again, sorry for no stream today. Hope this video makes up for the lack of the stream, and I will see you on Saturday or Sunday with an actual stream. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Wow, I'm such a professional. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.